Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Data Neighbor podcast. Today we have Kartik Singhal. Singhal? Is that how you pronounce your last name?
Yeah.
Cool. Kartik Singhal with us today to talk a lot about his experience in the machine learning field and offer nuggets for people who are looking to break into this profession. So I think it's going to be a very engaging discussion and definitely look forward to it. Welcome to the show, Karthik.
Yeah. Thank
Welcome
you.
to the show, Karthik.
Thank you for having me, guys. Yeah, really nice to finally talking to you guys here. Yeah. And thanks for having me here.
Cool, awesome. Yeah, we all look forward to this, and I'm sure our viewers, listeners will find a lot of value from the things that we're going to talk about. So, Karthik, you are a senior machine learning engineer at Meta, and you were previously at Amazon, Google, so the trifecta of the logos out there. So
Yeah.
we're going
Wait,
to get into...
I was
Sorry,
going to ask, hi. I heard Amazon, Google, Meta. Was there a Netflix and also Apple in there?
No.
Oh, that's your future, maybe. That's
yeah,
his
that's the
Yeah,
future.
future.
yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
He's covering all the Fang or Manga or Microsoft and all that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Karthik,
Not
the
yet.
logo
Yeah, we'll see.
collector, halfway
Yeah.
there.
It's actually accidental, to be honest. Yeah, it was not intentional, but this is how it worked out.
No,
Yeah.
logos want you, Karthik. It's not you
Yeah.
wanting
Yeah,
logos.
yeah, exactly. And we're gonna dive into some of those experiences and hear stories about it. But
Cool.
before Karthik is a senior machine learning engineer at Meta, who was Karthik Singhal?
Yeah, I'm originally from India, a place called Jaipur, which is like a desert place you can think of. And yeah, like it's a small town. I mean, I won't say small town, but like a small city in India. And I did my BTech there within the city as well. And then eventually I moved to US because I wanted to work on like cutting edge technology, to be honest. And I was very inspired by initially like some of the things that Google search, at that time Google search was coming up. And so I was like, where this is like, where this is being developed. So I came to know about like, US and everything. And I was like, okay, I want to work on these technologies. So I eventually moved to US in 2015. And that's where I kind of like started my journey. I moved for my master's at University of Minnesota. Um, and yeah, that's kind of like in a nutshell. Yeah.
So you did your undergrad in India, right? So
Yeah.
was it which area was that in? Was it in computer science or data science? I
Yeah,
mean,
it was in
it's not
computer
necessary.
science and engineering. Actually, both I always wanted to machine learning, but like my degrees are always in computer science, and I actually think that actually worked out better for me in a way because like computer science goes into like different like things. It touches different fields. It does not restrict you to another specific field, which actually worked out for me perfectly because when I started working, I started as a software engineer, went into machine learning engineer. So I kind of had an idea overall, okay, what it takes to build a distributed system, what it takes to productionize a system, all those things which came in very handy when I that was my niche that I provided like to others, like to the companies, basically that hey, I can work both on machine learning and deploy stuff as well. So yeah, like that it kind of worked out perfectly for me in a way, in that sense.
So were you like in India when you were doing your bachelor's in computer science? Did you know about machine learning back in the day, or was it because you came for your master's in computer science again, right? Or was it in a different
No, it
stream?
was in computer science, but like it was focused on machine learning. So my undergrad thesis was in machine learning,
Oh,
natural language processing to be
interesting.
specific. Yeah, I was working with a professor here in University of Minnesota at that time, actually, and that's how I kind of like came to Minnesota as well. Yeah, like
Wait,
that. Go ahead.
one question, sorry. So are you telling me in your undergrad you worked with a professor in Minnesota?
Yeah. Like I was working with a PhD student under his who was working in his lab essentially. Yeah.
That's pretty cool. How did you get that connection?
So he was an alumni of my undergrad school, essentially, and I kind of like I actually don't like I actually just reached out randomly, to be honest. Like, I was kind of interested in machine learning, and I knew, like, that he was working on it. So I kind of just reached out, and he was like, "Oh, I have a project. Do you want to work on it?" I was like, "Yeah, I mean, I'm down." Like at that time, I was not thinking about like money or like anything. I just wanted to learn. So I just like started contributing on his project. I mean, of course, like I was not like I was like very noob at the time, so like I was just learning, and he helped me out, and that's yeah, kind of how I got into professor's lab and everything. Yeah, that's how I
That's
started.
actually pretty cool. So, hi, by the way, I don't know if you think this is common for Indian engineering colleges, computer science grads. No, it's not a common thing. So, it's actually pretty cool you got to do that, Karthik. This actually talks about networking from
Yeah.
the get go, right? And yeah, please, you were about to say.
Yeah, I mean, like that's what I actually tell everyone. Like, I mean, a lot of people reach out to me, like from like from their undergrads or like even grad schools, and one of the things that I kind of say is that the best thing you can do is actually build like an advisor network, because like even in India, like a lot of advisors will like have contacts here in US, like they collaborate. So if you're working with an advisor in India, like you'll find that some of their students will be working here in US, and through that you can like find contacts essentially who are working here. So like that's what I suggest everyone. Like whenever people come to me that what should we do in university, I always say, like, like just work with an advisor, work on a project. As long as you're doing that, like I think you'll be fine. Slowly your portfolio will build. It can take time, of course, but like it will build eventually over time. Yeah.
And I think this extends beyond just students, right? Like, like networking is such a powerful thing.
Yeah.
If you're a student, probably the immediate network is the professors, the grad students, the
Yeah.
researchers that are around you in the university. But if you're, for example, working some other professions and you're interested in something like this, you probably know somebody who knows someone else in this field, and you can ask them to kind of intro you
Yeah.
and get the same outcome from that perspective. There's one thing I wanted to kind of dive in here a little bit, which is um, like it sounds super smooth how you went about asking, hey, can I work with you? You have connections in the US. Like, was it that smooth?
Oh, not at all. I mean, I reached out to like a lot of people, honestly. And I mean, of course, like only few people reply. And I can understand, like now I'm at their place, so I understand like everyone is like super busy, of course. Yeah, I reached out to like a lot of alumni. I just kind of like, cold emailed them that, hey, like, I'm interested in machine learning, and like I want to work on it. And like I would say like 99% of the people didn't even reply. It's just something I was like, okay, I'm interested in it. So I just continued pursuing. So I was trying like all kind of different ways. So I partnered with another professor in another Indian university, like trying to find some contact there through them, which she was a professor in a bigger university in India. It was like MNIT Jaipur. I like did an internship there, so I tried to find some contacts through there, and then of course like through my alumni network as well. And I was just like trying out everything, basically that can work. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't know what will stick, but I was like, okay, I want to learn machine learning. So what can get me there, essentially, and how can I talk to people who are working on these fields, essentially? Yeah.
Hi, thank you so much for that question because I think when he said it, that I spoke to an alumni and got the offer, it just felt like, oh, he's so lucky. He got an alumni who said
Uh,
yes, right?
yeah,
But now we know it's not a lucky thing. Like
yeah,
you
I
work.
Yeah, I spent like almost a summer working on it, under the professor to kind of like find network, essentially. Like that was primary motive, and like of course like learn as well under their guidance, because every professor has like their network. So yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and I think one, just in life in general, we're venturing into the life topic here a little bit, but we're gonna go back to your experience, is
Sure.
that a lot of people would look at others who have for example, like achieved more, got to a better place, or like got a more favorable outcome, as they're so lucky, or wouldn't have been great if I were born at that time, or or something like that. The reality that you just highlighted is it's a 1% chance of success, or even lower than that. And so it's
Yep.
just hard work. It's a lot of hard work to open the doors for yourself, such that when that 1% hits, you can take it and run it with it.
Yeah, I mean, actually, like one of my mentors when I joined the industry, like one of my mentors told me early on, like I was asking them, like, oh, hey, I cannot find jobs, or like, how I can, change jobs or work in a field that I want. And I was always like, well, I'm an introvert in nature. I think Shravya knows this, kind of like I'm like an introvert through and through. So I always feel uncomfortable reaching out to people, and I like don't want to trouble them. But my mentor was like hey, what if you what if he says no? I mean, it's fine. Like the worst case can happen is no. Or the worst case is like they don't reply, but that's fine. You have to try. It's there's no other way, I guess. To be honest. Yeah.
Yeah, the worst outcome is you were back to the original position that you were in.
Yeah, exactly. That's the baseline you're starting. So, like, yeah, in terms of like machine learning, that's the baseline you're starting at, and you can just go up technically. So yeah, yeah.
But Karthik, you know what I'm very curious about? This is not how an undergrad computer science person in India would think. What made you do this? I just want to understand your mindset at that point of time.
Yeah, so
How?
there was a one very cool thing that happened to me. So Google search was coming up at that time. And that has stayed till now, actually. That's why I'm working on search, to be honest, even now. But like Google search came in, and like of course Facebook was coming in, and I was like, these are like really cool technologies. Like Google search specifically, like I read about PageRank algorithm, which was built at that time, around that time, and um like I was fascinated by it. Like I was like how this is going, and then that's how I came to know about data mining and machine learning. And those fields were just coming up at that time. So there were like courses in my university that were introduced, luckily, at that time. So I started taking those courses.
Sorry, can
And
you give me the timeline? Which year is this? Just curious.
this is so I did my so probably like 2013. Yeah, 2013. Yeah. 2013 or 2014, probably one of those years that was like,
Okay.
transformational for me, like thinking what's going on with like Google search, and then started reading about it, found out about PageRank. That's what my first kind of like introduction to how ranking works. Yeah, I just stick to it afterwards. I was like, okay, this is what I want to work on. Essentially, I mean, it's prediction, but it's not truly prediction, right? In the end of the day, it's like still like built based on like mathematical formulations. And I was like, okay, this is pretty cool how people are doing this, and slowly built my way up from there. Like took courses, like talk to people where it's being worked on. So Google was, of course, in California. So I was like, okay, how do I reach to California?
Wow.
Find people who are working in California. How do I find people in California? Try to reach out to my alumni network who can get me there. How do
I
I
was not
find my
this person. This is pretty awesome. Please go on.
yeah? How do I find alumni network and find professors? Get introduction if possible. Cold email, try whatever, basically to get there. Yeah, yeah.
Karthik, you were relentless in a really good way. And most people would never take those steps because they would be like what you just said. Hey, I don't want to inconvenience others. Probably for the most part, folks who work in this industry are introverts, like heavy introverts. I'm an introvert.
Yep.
Other than Shravya, I've not met another extroverts in
Yeah,
the data
yeah.
field.
I agree. I
So
agree on that. Yeah.
that's
So one thing, hi, I also want to highlight here is one big thing I think most of the undergrads lack. But I'm sure tons of people at the same time in 2013 who are looking at Google search and thinking, whoa, this is magic. What is this? Right? And a very, very few fraction of them would think and aim to reach Google, to be there. Like we have this saying in Telugu, which is like, which means like seven seas away, you are in
Yeah.
India and you are in Jaipur. It's not like a metro city, right? It's not a Delhi,
Yeah. Yep.
Mumbai, like Bangalore. And sitting there, you thought about how do I get there? Thinking big, dreaming big, sitting in a place where you're far away and you relentlessly, like Hi said, pursued it. I think that's the key. A lot of people think it's far away and I don't know, what could I do, right?
Yeah.
And you just showed what one could do. So I think that's pretty big that I want people to, whoever is looking at this, to take this away from just this part of the journey. I know we have ton more to talk about, but yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, yeah, I agree on that. Like, yeah, I mean, for me, like the biggest motto is like, you don't get it if you don't ask for it. That's kind of like the only thing you can do, to be honest. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, now going to the actual profession that you're actually doing right now. For the viewers and listeners who are not super familiar, can you give a breakdown of what machine learning is for them?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, machine learning is basically it's an estimation of what can happen. So given the inputs, like whatever the variables there are, it's an estimation of what can happen given these other inputs, and you don't know anything else essentially. So that's basically a nutshell of it. For example, you want to predict a price of a product. Let's say you don't know anything about that product initially. You can see the product, you know what's the color of it, you know what the product is, what should be the average price of it. So that's like a very basic version of machine learning. Then of course you can make it more and more complex. Like you can introduce like more complex algorithms, you can introduce more complex equations, and then it becomes more and more accurate over the time. But yeah, that's kind of like in a nutshell.
Cool. And you had a pretty roundabout way of getting to machine learning as your profession because you first went into software engineering. Tell us a little bit about that reroute, why it happened, what happened there, what would you have wanted differently, if any?
Yeah. It's like dealing with like financial stuff and everything, to be honest. Like, when I came to US, I had like a big loan and everything. I started as a PhD student, but in the end of the day, one of my major driver was eventually getting financial independence from my family. So like at that time, like I thought about it a pretty long time, like, where I want to be in like 5, 6 years. And I was like, okay, I can always get into machine learning whenever I want it to be. But like initially I want to make sure that I'm like earning and like, making sure that like my family is fine in a way. So I made a hard decision at that time that okay, I'll take my master's, and then naturally, like if you don't have at that time, like right now, machine learning has opened up a lot, of course, in last
Right.
5 years.
Yeah.
When I started, it was still kind of like bit more, I would say, like that like mostly PhD students were being considered. It was just starting to kind of think about that. Okay, master student can also like do machine learning. um, so yeah, I mean, yeah, like so initially it was bit, and of course, like I was on visa as well. So like you have like a time clock on your head that if you don't find a job in 2, 3 months, you'll be let go. Okay, like what can I do best? Like I have like 4 months. I want to find a job as quickly as possible. I tried everything. I of course tried machine learning jobs as well. And like just landed software engineering there. But even that like kind of prioritized machine learning team. So I joined a team where I knew that eventually if I work hard, I'll be able to find something in machine learning. That's actually an interesting story. I wrote it in my article actually as well about this. So I did my intern in Google. I had an offer letter from them, but it was in an Android position, like Android development position. And I mean, nothing against it. Like it's a great position, but like it's just not my interest. Um, so I had two options. I was interviewing at that time, and then I got an like offer letter from Amazon. And Amazon was like also like not a machine learning position, but it was in pricing team, which was working with a team which is in
Yep.
machine learning. So I was like, okay, this is a longer route, but I can see a path there. I mean, at Google side, I cannot even see a path. it was one of the hardest decisions I've made. Like, because Google was my dream company at that time. It was like, okay, it's always my dream to join Google. But I was like, okay, I want to get into machine learning. That's what my actual passion is. So, like, this is going to be tough, but like, still, there is a path there. So, like, let's try it out. Once I got in, I was like, okay, I'll just continue trying. I continued asking my manager that, yeah, I want to work in machine learning. My manager got like slowly, like, I mean, I was a like hard worker, so he was okay with it. But yeah, he like, I can imagine why he might have gotten irritated at some point of time, like, but yeah. So
Such an important point, Karthik, whatever you just mentioned. See, you always had eyes on where you want to go
yeah,
since your undergrad, right? And every step you took was towards that. It might not look like it's towards that at that
yep.
moment, but it was towards that. And that decision that you took for Google versus Amazon, I mean, it's a great place to be to have those two companies in your hand. But
I mean, yeah,
still,
yeah.
right? You've worked hard to get there. That's very evident how you've got there. But even then, the reason why you went for Amazon over Google, I would say people actually have these sort of decision points like in their life where you could go one route or the other, and whatever route you go is going to define where you finally end up.
Yeah.
Having that north star where you want to be, it's going to make it easier for you to choose that, A or B, the two things that you're in hand.
Yeah, and I mean, of course, I mean, one thing is like I tell everyone that you'll have to make hard choices. For me, technically, I was getting a higher salary at Google. It was a better offer letter. But Jeff Bezos has a saying that, regret minimization framework. I could buy that in a way that, like, like I thought like, okay, what will make me less regretful if I don't try it. So I was like, okay, I can always get into Android, I feel like, if I want to try it later. But if I don't start here right now, then I would always think about it, what could have happened. Yeah, that was the thought process there in a way. But it was very hard decision regardless. I took like a sweet few weeks to decide that. Yeah.
Good outcome though. That's a
Yeah.
great decision. Data-driven decision too.
Yeah, it was actually it's one of the single. So I have made lot of bad choices, to be honest. But if I have to say like what's the best choice I've made in like last like in during my career, that's one single thing that I would say that the best decision I've made. Because I found a like lot of support from my peers, me working on machine learning, and like through that like a lot of things happened. And yeah, like if I would have joined Google at that time, like it would have been probably a different case. I mean, Google is a great company and they have like a lot of interesting, by the way, opportunities as well. It's just that at that time I didn't have that opportunity. So yeah.
So this, like a takeaway from this would be anyone who wants to pivot in their career from one area to the other, and you have options, you're trying to get into a job, you might not get that job that you want to
Yeah.
pivot into right now, but make sure yourself you put yourself in a position that makes it easier for you to
Yeah.
pivot,
Yeah.
right? So that is, like, I would say, the biggest. So it could be from data analyst to data scientist,
Yep.
analytics or product you want to get into a job where you interact with the data scientist on a regular basis to understand their work, maybe to do part of their work as part of your data analyst job,
Yep.
which will make it do so good at it, like how you were talking about yourself, be a hard worker, so that your manager listens to you when you go up with a request of a change, right?
Yeah.
But you should be in a place where that could happen. Thinking about these things 2 years down the line, 3 years down the line, what could happen if you do this is going to totally help you in
Yeah.
making those switches or decisions.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
That's a great segue to this follow-up question, actually, Karthik. So if I were, for example, like I am working in some other fields, let's I'm not picking any fields. This is just random, okay? Healthcare. Like
Yeah.
I'm working in healthcare. I am sick of my job. I don't like what I'm doing every day. I heard these things of working at a tech company to be really cool, cutting edge, all that sorts of stuff. And I want to bring in. is your success replicable from that perspective for that healthcare person right now? And if so, do you have a, let's call it like a 5-step plan for them? Like, what should they be doing now?
Oh yeah, for sure. To be honest, like I would say one thing, like one of the things that helped me to transition was the domain knowledge. I think one of the things that people miss in machine learning is how much important the domain knowledge is. Like as a software engineer in pricing, the domain knowledge that I built led to my eventually my transition there, and I knew that okay, what pricing is, how does like price prediction works, what's like price demand of elasticity, or all these things. So that domain knowledge I couldn't have earned anywhere. So the thing about healthcare is like if you're at healthcare, you have domain knowledge that no one else has. Like a person who is coming out of a computer science degree won't have that domain knowledge. So like why not take advantage of it? So I feel like getting a computer science degree is the easier part than the domain knowledge part, because that takes time. That takes like, okay, what are the challenges that that domain is facing? Once you have that idea, then you can kind of always figure out, okay, how I can build the skills needed to do fight like solve those problems. So things that I would suggest is like, like I mean, the first thing is of course like learning coding. But there are like a lot of resources out there nowadays. Like you can take classes on like basic things like Java, Python. Start with that. Then start like learning about like what like I mean build information about your domain knowledge, like what are the problems that they are facing. Build a network of people who are working in like let's say software engineering or machine learning in healthcare. So find people who are doing that, see what they are doing, and like essentially go forward from there. So like now you have like coding, people who are doing this, what they are doing. Then you can like iteratively build upon that. Like if you're like, okay, this is what I don't know, there will be a course for that for sure online. Like there are a lot of resources out there nowadays. You can just build upon it. It's just more about like what kind of problem you're trying to solve. Yeah.
I feel like career could be like a video game. I'm just thinking about it in my head, video game, or like, a game of bridges or pie diagrams that are intersected with each other, right?
Yeah.
So imagine, hi, your question's pretty great question. You're a healthcare data analyst and you want to get to Google search ranking, MLE, right?
Yeah.
So how do you get there? So you double down on the skills that you have today, or double down on the what uniqueness you have about yourself. What uniqueness you have about yourself as a healthcare data analyst, healthcare domain, exactly what you said, Karthik.
Yep.
And you know data, you know the basics of data. I'm sure you know from technical skill sets SQL, right?
Yep.
Now, understanding what are the technical skill sets needed for to be an MLE, at least something like that. Go learn Python, learn other things, maybe even take an online course of computer science or whatever.
Yep.
Get the network and jump into the same area. So you're on the bridge of healthcare. Use that bridge of healthcare and jump into the machine learning area. Now
Yeah.
you are in the machine learning area, then use that bridge to jump into maybe Google, right?
Yeah.
So it doesn't feel like you can't jump right away from healthcare to suddenly that, but use these series of steps that connects you to a different path entirely. If from healthcare data analyst to Google search ranking, there's no, bridge to jump. But if you get to the machine learning, then you could use your technical skills intersection to jump into different domain.
Yeah, that's exactly what my path is always as well actually. So like I was like a software engineer in pricing. Eventually I wanted to work in search, or at least know about search, like how search works. But like I was in pricing, I was like, okay, like right now I've already built all this domain knowledge. Why like it would be easier to transition here to a machine learning engineer. So I did my transition there, and then use those skills to kind of like move to search team within Amazon, and then use those skills to like come to Facebook finally. You have to iteratively build upon it. There's no like long jump that you can like make easily.
So here the bridges are, if you want to look at it, the first bridge was software engineering. You used that to join, and then you used domain bridge, and you went into machine learning,
Yep.
and then you use the same company bridge, because in the same company you can shift easier than suddenly into another place. Use that to get into search, and then you have search domain and also MLE knowledge, and use that to jump into
Yeah.
another place.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's
This
so
is pretty
cool.
cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's great. we're gonna make an infographic off of this. Like, hey,
Yeah.
3 steps to jumping. Here's the first
Yeah.
jump. Here's the second jump. Here's the third jump. And then
Yeah.
together, you're gonna make that final jump. I think that's gonna
And
go
I mean,
viral.
it also, like, to be honest, it also depends on, like, everyone is different. Everyone's journey is different. Like, I know people who have made the jump by switching. Like, they were like, okay, they cannot figure out a path within their company. And it happens. Like, there will be times that you are stuck at a place and you're not able to figure it out, which is fine. It's just then the work is a bit harder, but like, it's just still possible. It's just that jump is longer, and
Or you could jump in the same domain, same skill set to another company and do that there,
yeah,
right? Do
exactly.
what you
Yeah,
did
yeah,
there.
that also works. Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
yes. So everyone has a different path to where they are to where they want to go to. It's just like little like a maze that you have to
Yeah,
go through to get where you want to go to. Yeah.
yeah,
And I think the one word that really jumps out at me in this conversation is you're really intentional about at least your career. I'm guessing your life is the same too. Like, I think, a person is not going to be very different in how they operate professionally and non-professionally. So the intentionality is something that I don't think enough people give much thought into, as in, hey, I'm going to plan out my life, or I'm going to sit down a little bit. I'm going to plan out true north that I'm trying to
yeah,
hit. Well, I mean, first of all, a lot of people don't think about a true north. Second of all, they don't plan that backwards to how to get there. And
yeah,
so definitely kudos to you for being so intentional about where you want to go.
It's also like it's not that whatever he planned happened right away too. His true
Yeah.
north was getting into Google, right? And that's the reason why he, teamed up with, like, his masters, alumni, and things like that. He did not end up in Google, right? He did end up, but he was not going in the path that he wanted. But he did other things to get to the true north, but slightly later. Might not be right away into machine learning because of the challenges that he faced at that point of time. So I think that's critical too.
yeah. Yeah, my first internship has nothing to do with machine learning. First, like, the very first. So yeah, it took time. It was like hit and trial of different things. What works, what does not work. And yeah, but eventually, like, I was like, okay, I want to get into it. As you said, like, it's kind of like make sure that that is my long-term goal, and like somehow get there. Make choices that can get me there, even if it is like 30% chance that it will get there with that choice, but like at least there it's more than zero. So yeah.
Yeah, super important. In your blog, you had mentioned you had an opportunity to be promoted, but you delayed it. I think that's a pretty related story to what we just talked about. Can you elaborate on that, or can you tell the audience about that story?
Yeah, I mean, so like when I joined as a software engineer, I knew that I wanted to get into machine learning. But I was I was like I also knew that if I have to demand something, I need to make sure that I am good at my current job first. Because like if you're not good at your current job first, then whatever you'll say, like anyone will be like, hey, you're not doing the work that you are supposed to do right now. Then why should I give you more work, right? Like I wanted to make sure that I'm good at it, basically. So yeah, I was a good software engineer. Like I had the opportunity to grow very fast. My manager was very supportive of it at the time, that if I want to get into senior software engineer quickly, I had the option to like go within like 4 years to like senior level, which would have made a big difference at that time. Like because of course, like the jump, like 2 jumps is like, of course, a significant salary boost, significant like influence boost. You can take like more responsibilities, bigger role in the organization. Um, but I also knew, and I had a very hard conversation about this with my manager at the time, and he was like super supportive, by the way. But like I had very hard conversation at the time that like he was like, you are a good software engineer. Why do you want this? Why you are not just want to grow and climb the ladder? And I was like, I don't know to be honest. It's just something that I want to work in. It's something uh, like I want to try it. Or I know that I'm going to regret. Like I can always become a senior software engineer later on if I want. But and I know that 2 years of like more salary or more bigger role of 2 years like not going to make a difference in like a career of like 3 years, 30 plus years, for example. So I was like, okay, if I have to try it now, like it's basically like try it now. It would be very hard if I become a senior software engineer to then transition to a senior machine learning engineer, because of course the role demands more stuff from you. So the expectation grows as you become senior. So if you're a senior machine learning engineer or senior applied scientist, the expectations will be bigger. So that jump will be bigger for me than like let's say if I stay at a junior or an entry level position now, make that jump and then grow there. So yeah, intentionally made the choice. I was like, I pushed back to the manager that yeah, like this is something that I want to try. It is what it is. So it took projects that were more in line with working on machine learning, even though I knew that they are not bigger scope projects, which would have gotten me to like senior software engineer. I intentionally denied those projects and took projects that were like, even if it was like smaller projects in nature, but were like making me more kind of like worthy of like as a machine learning engineer within that, like which were helping me to transition to machine learning engineer within that team
That's
actually.
such
Yeah.
an inspiring story. I think number one, that intention has to be really strong. Like you must be holding on to a very strong belief that this has to be something that you would be doing. Like this has to be, or else I'm guessing like if we put the exact same option to most people, they're gonna choose the
Oh
path of
yeah.
least resistance.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a very I mean like it was a definitely a difficult choice. Everyone wants kind of like a responsibility, right? Like they want influence in whatever they're working on. Like they want that, okay, like I should be like leading projects, or I should be like kind of like leading the charter of the team or whatever. So everyone wants that. But I intentionally had to kind of like let go of those urges of me and kind of like say that, okay, I want to work on machine learning. So that's one thing that I first learned, and then like I'll figure out those things later on. In the end of the day, kind of like worked out. Like I don't think 2-3 years of delay in promotion makes that much of a difference. And
Thank you so much for sharing that, Karthik. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Cool, awesome. Yeah, I think the part of this podcast is to inspire people based on other people's experience, and I feel like you certainly have done that here with that experience. Like I feel like that could be the theme of this show already.
Hey Karthik, so this is like great stories, right? Until how you got to where you got. Now maybe we'll pivot into something which I personally also always have been curious about. So how does your day-to-day look like as a machine learning engineer? And how did it change through the course in Amazon to Meta? And I'm sure you might have friends in other places, right? So probably talk about like a day to day of a machine learning engineer, and how does this change between companies, between the type of product that you support, or I assume there's going to be machine learning engineers in research as well. So it'll be great if we could cover different versions of this.
yeah, I would say so machine learning engineering, or even like machine learning in general, is a very wide band. To be honest, I call it like a spectrum in a way, which ranges from like pure engineering, which is focused on like machine learning infrastructure and building the infrastructure around it, um, to a point of like purely research engineer as well, who are like like researching on new models. So it depends a lot, to be honest, from company to company, and like there is no single consistency in any company. Everyone follows their own definitions, and even within a company, like every team has their own definition, to be honest, of these titles. So yeah, like I would say myself as like I'm applied machine learning engineer. So I don't come up with new research. I work on how like solving a problem essentially. So like given a problem, like hey, like our relevance is not good on search queries, how we can improve it, what are the ways we can improve it, where users are not finding value in things that we are showing, and how we can improve it in a way. So like that's kind of like the general problem statement, and then go forward from there. It can be machine learning, it cannot be. So it depends, to be honest. But like in the end of the day, like you want to solve a problem. So in a lot of my cases, like it involves like building a model. It involves like data analysis, initial data, like essentially like finding like what's wrong, like why some search queries are working better than others, why we are not able to show good results for some of them. How can we solve it? Starts with that, like basic data analysis. Then like diving deep into, okay, this is the issue. Then like what's the, like how we can solve it. It goes to like, like, okay, like do we need a model for this, or do we like, how, like, can we, like, does not have to be a model. um and like if it requires model, then I'll work on the model as well. So yeah, like most of my work is like actually on modeling side. So I then use that data to like, train the model, then eventually also like deploy the model. So in my current job, it is like a more like I control the product, which is search and search ads, and then like whatever it takes to maintain that product essentially and improve that product, kind of. So um, yeah, it can be modeling, it can be like, basic like heuristics as well. Like, you're working on optimization problems sometimes in the back end, like does not have to be modeling, but yeah, anything basically to solve that problem. Yeah, this kind of changed over time. So in Amazon, I was more like an ML infrastructure engineer initially, of course, because I was initially a software engineer. So I started as an kind of like building on machine learning infra. I built like, one of the inference platforms essentially for dynamic pricing team at Amazon, and started with that. Then slowly, I would say, like built over top of, get into more and more machine learning. So initially I started with like just doing feature engineering, like how I can get like that new kind of data, what kind of data we need, like what kind of features we need, not changing the model at all. Then, okay, like if I change this model this much, like how it improves the performance. So slowly, like kind of like build upon top of it. Yeah.
So, to maybe summarize it, you currently at Meta are embedded in a product space, search product, right? And I assume you work with stakeholders, product stakeholders, engineering stakeholders, data science stakeholders, right? And design probably. And you basically are responsible for the machine learning related search problem space.
Yeah.
It's
It's
right.
essentially, yeah.
So, and you're responsible to make sure that search works at its best and you solve for all the issues that people raise in search. It could be customers, it could be your bugs that,
Yep.
that get covered. And you, once you get this problem, you decide which tool is used better to solve this problem. Sometimes it could be as simple as not modeling, could be something you do on search, like engineering side, maybe probably
Yep.
give like a filter for
Yeah.
users to do a better way. Or you could do like a heuristic model that does not involve complicated machine learning.
Yep.
And the other side of this is actually changing a machine learning model to improve the results. And probably, I assume you'd use A/B testing to cover
Oh yeah.
which if the model's doing best or not. And I'm sure that's where data science comes in. So I'm talking about that.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, like there won't be anyone who is not dealing with A/B testing if they are in machine learning. Eventually, it comes down to like, like how do you evaluate two different models, or even like it does not have to be a model. It can be like a simple heuristic, but like how do you evaluate it? And in the end of the day, you need to do A/B testing in some way. Yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And another thing I really liked in what you explained is ML infra, right? I want people to know a little bit about infrastructure, like what you meant by that. So maybe just from, I would say, like layman terms. So machine learning model goes and sits at a place that makes it easier for it to get deployed into the production, where as soon as a user clicks on something, you need to get a result right away. If it's going on in circles, you don't want that, right?
Yep.
And all of that is dependent on how good the infra is and how good this entire deploying system is.
Yep.
And there are people that work on the model itself, and there are people that work to make sure that the model is deployed in the right way, in the right format, and that's infra to an extent, right? So, and you've worked on that team, because generally most of the software engineering space is that where you build systems and, platforms. So you were a software engineer, so you moved towards building the machine learning infra, which is close to software engineering, and then you moved up in the ladder towards more data and modeling, right?
Yeah.
And so that was your path. Now, going into the nuanced version of what you did to
Yeah.
exactly get to machine learning. And
Yeah.
this, I would say, would be something that if you have a plan for, anyone could probably try to follow a similar path.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, most people like do try that. Like most people I know who transition from software engineering to machine learning kind of followed a similar path. I mean, it can be like, some parts of it can be like, like sped up for a few people, or some it can be like, slow for others. But like most people follow that kind of path where they start working already on like, the machine learning infra side of stuff, because of course a lot of the learnings that you already have are transferable there, and then kind of like try to find opportunities for your case, essentially by build your own space there, like, okay, this is the problem that our team is facing right now, how I can solve it. It can be like a simple problem that, hey, I want to build a new feature, how can I bring that feature, kind of like that. That's how I got into it. Like, so I was like, okay, like we like in Amazon, like, we were not like predicting we were not predicting something in a right way. I was like, okay, this is the feature that can help me. And of course, like everyone's bandwidth, they prioritize different things. So at that time, like machine learning the scientists were working on different things. So I was like, okay, like I'll just do that. Yeah, I brought that feature that they included that feature in the next iteration of like kind of like modeling. It proved like pretty important feature, and slowly kind of like
Wow.
that's how I built like confidence in the team initially, that hey, I know my stuff, and then slowly kind of went forward from there. Yeah.
It's like a theme, Karthik, for you. There's no sudden shifts, right?
Oh
And
yeah.
it's like you have something and you build trust, you build confidence, and then slowly move. And then you do a very good job there. You build trust, you build confidence, and then slowly move, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's always like that. Like you have to be good at what you're doing right now, and then just do 5% extra than that. And like if you continue doing that 5% extra every time, then eventually, hopefully, like, you just hope for the best that you will get there. Yeah.
And I like how confident you are in your own ability. Where do you get that from?
I'm not confident, to be honest. Like I struggle with confidence a lot. Like I was like when I joined the teams, like anyway, like in any company I've joined, like I was always struggling with like imposter syndrome at the start. I think it kind of, and I don't I don't like say that's a good thing, but it kind of pushed me to like, work outside of my comfort zone in a way. So I was like, oh, I don't know this. How I can know this, essentially, like, like who should I talk to who knows this? Yeah, I was always like struggling with confidence, actually, to be honest, and that's what kind of pushed me that, hey, I need to work like I need to work smart and work with smart people who knows all this and then can help me, essentially. So yeah, like I actually don't think I'm confident person. It's just like slowly, like, very slowly, it might seem like it now, but like I still think that there are things that I don't know, and talk to people who are smarter than me, essentially. Yeah, in that sense.
I mean, thank you for saying that. That's super revealing, right? Like for
Yeah.
our listeners and viewers, because if I were to watch this episode and then I just heard Karthik your story up until now, I would be like, man, like he knows what he's doing. He's so intentional about his path. He knows exactly what the next steps are, even though it's like a 1% chance of success every single step. I'm just not like that. Like what am I doing here? Part of the part of the mantras for this podcast is to offer as much transparency as possible in this field, in the whole entire data profession. Everybody struggles. Everybody has their own insecurities and things like that. So yeah, thank you for being vulnerable and saying that, because many people, I'm sure, are like, I'm just gonna go back to what I'm doing because I can never become Karthik.
I mean, yeah, and I think Shravya knows about this kind of a bit. Like I've talked to her briefly, and like it's something like let's say if you put me in like computer vision space today, I'll be like what is this? My imposter syndrome will come back again, like in a day essentially, and then like I'll kind of like start studying about it because I don't know about that space like that much. So um, it's the same, like like you find what works for you, like what pushes you in the end of the day. For me, it's like not knowing what I don't know, like like sometimes you, I mean, if you know like what you don't know, that's kind of good, but like like a lot of times actually what happens is that you don't know what you're doing and you don't know what you're doing wrong. So talking to people, finding mentors, that's where all these things comes into place, that find people who are like smarter than you, work with people who are smarter than you, networking, all these things, that's where it helps. Yeah.
So there are two ways you could go with an insecurity or not having confidence. There's one way where you go back to your shell and sleep in it, have your comforter on. And there's another way where you are like, I don't like being this. I don't like being this way. I'd rather be confident, which means I need to go, go hard on this and understand this, talk to someone who knows this and work on it. So if your insecurity is pushing you towards getting better at it, maybe that's probably the right way to be, or to but make sure that as through the process, like accept who you are. I think insecurities and confidence comes from that, is you feel bad about the way you are. So I think the other side of not having confidence that you're talking about, you're not bad about where you are, right? It's almost like, I don't know this, and what do I need to
Yeah, for me, it's more like, okay, like these people are doing very cool stuff. I'm like, in a way, I'm kind of like a child at heart, in a way. So I'm like, okay, these people are like doing very cool stuff. I don't know what they're doing. I want to learn what they're doing, and I'll talk to them what they're doing then. So, so it's kind of like that actually. In the end of the day, I find people who are smarter than me, and I work with them, or try to work with them, even though I know that a lot of times they won't reply to me, but that's okay. Yeah. That's kind of like my central theme throughout that. Okay, how do I find people who are smarter than me? Yeah, for working on cooler stuff. Yeah.
it it's another theme I'm seeing, Karthik, in you again, is you just mentioned you being child at heart, and I see innate curiosity in you. Like there's something that you want to learn more, you want to understand more, and you do everything to go towards that problem that you want to go solve or to know more, and you don't hesitate in that process to whatever you'll have to do, jump loops, do things, talk to people, though it's very uncomfortable for you to do that. I see you doing that day in and day out, which is amazing, right? So being curious and having that passion towards, I want to learn more about this, what could I do to get there, irrespective of how comfortable you feel doing it, I think.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, getting passionate about like cool stuff. Like I have like okay, this is very cool. I want to work on it. And so for me, like almost like 1 year, I was obsessing about like self-driving car. I was like, I want to work on it. Like, how do I work on it? Like what people are doing there too. Like this is like such a cool technology. Like Waymo was coming up, and then Uber was working on their self-driving car at that time and everything. So yeah, like it's yeah, all of these things are like very cool. And someday I might want to get there, but we'll see. Yeah.
I have no doubt you will definitely get there. And so, yeah,
We'll see.
that's been awesome. It's been a great conversation, Karthik. Here's one final question for you. What's one thing you do outside of data? This could be a hobby, this could be a book probably that you read, that has had the most impact on your career.
For me, it's a bit unconventional, I would say. So like I'm like a licensed skydiver. So I started that during COVID, like in 2020. And it has been like kind of like in a way life-changing for me because it's like the ultimate meditation that anyone can do. Yeah, whenever over the weekend, like if it's sunny, like I'm in Seattle, so you don't get that many sunny days, but like as long as it's sunny, then I try to kind of like, yeah, like go there and yeah, do skydive. And it's actually like been very helpful for me.
And it's helpful because there's the meditative aspects to it.
Yeah, it's just, it gives you a perspective. Like in 2020, like everyone was like anxious, right? Like was staying at home, you couldn't do much. I'm a bit outdoorsy person. I like to go hiking, and 2020 was like hard on me in that sense that I had to stay at home. I couldn't do much. So I had this built-in energy that I wanted to like I was like, okay, what is going on in the world? And I started skydiving at that time, and it gives you this perspective that like how tiny the problems are. Like, when you see something from like 13,000 feet, everything is like very tiny. You can just like, see the mountains, you can see the rivers, but you cannot see anything. Like, you don't know, like, okay, there might be someone driving there. There will be like thousands of people, millions of people driving there and everything. That perspective like changed my mind. It's like, okay, like every problem in the end of the day is solvable. It's just you have to work for it. But yeah, so like that kind of like reduced a lot of like, at that time, like whenever I was having like these kind of like anxiety driven thoughts, I was like, okay, that kind of like calmed me down, and then eventually brought this kind of thing that, okay, every problem is solvable, and there will be a way. It's just I need to keep chill about it, and like, do it slowly, but it will happen. So yeah, that was the kind of thing that I found from skydiving, which helped me a lot. Yeah.
What a cool way. So
That is
I'm going to go
awesome.
jump down the airplane. No, I'm kidding. This comes with the
So
conditions apply.
So I tell everyone that regardless you do whether you want to do solo or not, you should at least do skydiving like once in your life. Like it can be tandem, like you can jump with someone else. It's very safe. It's one of the safest things in the world. I'll be very honest. Like the probability of you dying is like less than 0.0001%. And like Shiva, you are a data person, so you should know that that's very less. Yeah, everyone should try it, or everyone should have that in their bucket list, at least once in their life. It's life changing. Yeah, I feel like.
Just add it to my bucket list. This is awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Karthik.
Cool.
This has been a great conversation. And yeah, thank you so much for your time.
It was super awesome to talk to you guys. And yeah, thanks for having me. Yeah. And someday I would love to listen to your podcast and learn about your stories as well.
Stay tuned. Stay tuned. We
Yeah,
will definitely do a few episodes for each of us. Cool. Thank you so much for listening. And if you like this episode and you found value, please like and subscribe and share with your friends. And we'll come to you again next week with another episode from the Data Neighbor podcast.
And also let us know, guys, who do you want to listen to? What do you want to learn more about? Which space do you want to learn more about? And things like that. We'll try our best to get those for you. Thank you so much.